I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. Are you through chewing?
Mm-hmm.
Alright guys, we're back building the Jeep Cherokee for the Matt's off-road games. And this is where we're at right now. Now, if you remember, the off-road games specified that we needed to build something under $5,000, no roof, and it needed to be on coil springs front and rear. Now, if you were gonna build a cheap Jeep, this is it. This is where I would end it. This thing would take you a lot of places. You could have a lot of fun. This would be really great. And we did it all for $2,000 is what we bought the Jeep for. And then we paid maybe 60 bucks, less than 100 bucks in tubing. That's it. We're finished. But since the off-road games specified that we needed to have coil springs front and rear, you might be wondering, how are you guys gonna compete if you don't have coil springs in the rear? Well, we have something from Iron Rock Off-Road. Check out this great pile of parts right here. So this is the Iron Rock Off-Road 4-link rear suspension for a Jeep Cherokee. So it's supposed to just bolt right in. We've got 4-link kit. We also have a truss for the 8 1/4 rear axle, and we have their specific exhaust kit that's supposed to be set up specifically for the rear 4-link kit and the Cherokee. So there's 3 components there. All in, we spent $2,400 on this stuff, but on BleepinJeep.com we have a 10% off coupon code for Iron Rock Off-Road, so we're going to subtract that and then add that into the budget. And today we're going to put this 4-link kit on the Cherokee. So first things first, we're going to put this up on the lift. We're also going to drop the gas tank to get it up and out of the way because we're eventually going to relocate it as well. I can start to see all the rust holes now.
Mm-hmm.
This thing's already Swiss cheese.
This side's been all cut out. The frame back here.
It only has to hold the coils. What could go wrong? We're gonna be adding a cross member back there from the Iron Rock kit. It looks like this, so it'll span that hole maybe. It's been used and abused. Hello. Oh, that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
We got a little ahead of ourselves. I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. So, I don't know who made this kit here. So this is the front long arm kit. It's got 2 bolts holding it in, and there's no support for the other side. So all the pressure is pushing up this way, wanting to bend and snap these bolts. There's 2 bolts on this side and 2 bolts on this side, and that's it, holding your entire front suspension in. And Josh said, well, it's offset by the weight of the engine pushing down here. So we got a rusty frame already, and then these right here are just like nut certs on this frame. Unless they got in there somehow and put a nut on the other end. That's just a nut cert basically holding all of that weight from going anywhere. I'm surprised it held up with Marvin jumping it. I'm definitely going to want to weld here. I don't see how all that leverage isn't just folding everything in. The arm isn't even mounted where the support is for the bolts. It's mounted interior of that, and there's nothing over here to hold things up. That to me is insane. What say you?
I don't know. That's something else.
All right, fuel tank is out, and we're moving on over here to do a couple things. So we're thinking about putting an SYE into this. What we don't know is once we get that cross member for the rear control arms, if we'll even be able to pull this out without pulling everything back off. So to keep ourselves from doing 2 steps, what we're gonna do is pull the transfer case right now. We've got one on Facebook Marketplace that we're looking at, a 231 with an SYE already installed. Otherwise, we'll have to buy an SYE and install it into this transfer case. But either way, we really need an SYE in here, which is a slip yoke eliminator. And it gets rid of that thing, because that thing right there is a slip yoke. And the drive shaft slips in and out of there, and it's a weak link on these transfer cases. So we need to pull the front drive shaft down, rear drive shaft, and then there's 6 bolts, and then that thing slides right out. That looks yummy.
Mm-hmm.
Hope said she was gonna fire the employee with the worst posture. I have a hunch it's gonna be me.
So when I snap my fingers, you're gonna completely forget that you were gay.
I've heard this one before.
It's a little dark. That's okay.
I can't guarantee it yet, but I bet you that's going to be a great design right there. You see this bolt that has to come out right here?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Do you think if we just took a sawzall and cut the bolt, was I right?
You was right.
Yep. So close. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. I got the wrench stuck and I can't turn it around. There it goes.
That's not supposed to be like that.
That looks great.
Yeah.
It's like a whale blubber. Have you seen this leaf spring shackle bolt?
Oh, that's pretty. They even cut a hole in there to accomplish that.
Well, there's a rust hole in the top and a cut hole in the bottom, and the bolt head is just not there anymore. It's like they tried to cut it off with a torch and then just gave up. I don't think that's ever coming out. I'm gonna go ahead and say that these U-bolts aren't tight since there's a 1/4-inch gap in between each one.
Side's not. I noticed that earlier. I have 1 bolt left. One MP231.
MP231 for sale.
Crusty, but works.
The Jeep folded by about a 1/4 inch already. Go. So close. I gotta work out more. My arms are burning. You like this design?
That's great.
So we put that back in just to hold the transmission up so we could hold this guy down and set the vehicle down closer to the ground so we can then remove the rear axle. Remember that part earlier where I said we would be completely done with this if we didn't have to have the coil springs in the rear? Why did we choose to do this?
Why didn't we get a vehicle that already had coil springs on all 4 corners?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's gonna be great though when it's done. It's gonna be so awesome. Come down. Good morning, guys. Welcome back. So last night we went over all the parts, discussed what we're gonna do, and we realized that we needed to order a few more parts. Got those ordered last night. We're gonna wait on those. So in the meantime, we're gonna have to pick and choose very carefully what we do because we don't have exactly what we need to finish the project yet. We're gonna go ahead and order an SYE kit instead of getting one off of Facebook Marketplace because it wasn't the right input. So we're gonna do that and just use the transfer case that came out of it. That way the input shaft is correct. But now what we need to do is go ahead and start working on the axle and the cross members from Iron Rock for the rear forelink. Which one would you prefer to tackle?
I have no preference at all. None.
You don't seem very excited about the rear cross member.
Oh, I'm fine with the rear cross member.
There's some rust going on up in here. Josh was like wanting to plate it and make this all perfect before we put the cross member up in there for those are the coil spring mounts and the shock cross member. My thought is if we just weld this in there, that will be the replacement plate. We don't need to replacement plate it and then replacement plate it again.
It'll hold for a while.
Look.
Until it rusts the rest of the way off.
Look at this Jeep. You can see through every portion of it. There's holes all in it. There's a street sign right here.
I told Matt yesterday, and we need to tell you guys, this is why we pick nice vehicles to work on. All you guys say we're tearing apart holy grails. No, we just want rust-free stuff, so you're not dealing with that.
You're gonna get tetanus.
I was gonna get it. I got it a long time ago. I'm immune.
Look at that. That's already been replaced. Somebody just stuck a little sign up in there and put some sheet screws. It'll be fine. Just got to figure out where we want to put that. Maybe we just move everything an inch back. We were thinking about stretching it, not by making the arms longer, but by just removing the brackets back a little further. What if we just moved everything back an inch? We're not positive whether or not we'll be able to put the cross member here and then still get the transfer case in there. So that's why we're kind of having to hold off on things, because once we get that cross member here for the lower control arms, if we can't get the transfer case in at that point, we're kind of screwed.
So moving it back an inch, are we gonna hit the gas tank? Do you think that's why they made that cross member the way they did?
I don't know, but we're moving the gas tank up inside. I guess we could start on that first. Let's do that. You worry too much. Alright, so what we need to do is measure this hole 19 inches by 32 inches. So what we're planning on doing, I haven't yet to do this before, but I've seen it done a lot. You just cut a hole in here, and then you just put that on top and let it sit there. And that way it's like a gas tank tuck. Frame rail there, somewhere around here. So yeah, that'll fit. And then 19, we'll have to go under and make sure where we want this situated, but I would assume as far back as possible. So we'll mark that out, and then we'll get to cutting.
Don't like that.
Okay, let's see if we got the hole the right size. Alright, a little trimming. She will be a nice snug fit. Oh yeah!
Beautiful.
Look how beautiful that gas tank is. This could be a SEMA show build. Speed holes, custom inset gas tanks, custom cage work. So here's the, you don't even need a skid when it's that high. You can see though where it got beat before on that plastic gas tank, and it just hides the fact that it's all caved in. But there's still probably 13 gallons at least in there. It's just slightly lower than the frame rail. All right, so we just need to weld it all the way around the edge. I'll leave that up to you.
Sure, I'll get right on that.
Okay, let's go up. This cross member is supposed to go right about there. I don't know, what do you think? We could go back an inch or two with the axle to give this a stretch, but the problem with doing a stretch is you typically do that on a Jeep on bigger tires, and this one really doesn't have that big tires. By doing a stretch on a small tired vehicle, you just basically decrease your ground clearance when you're going over a hill or something.
And put a 12-inch lift on it.
Alright, so we gotta get all this cleaned off so that we can weld to it. If you're doing this Iron Rock 4-link rear kit on a Jeep that's not all rusted out like this, it's just bolt-on, so I want to make that clear. This is a fully bolt-on kit. However, we don't have the bolts anymore, and we don't have the frame, so we're just gonna go ahead and weld it all together. What do you think the chances are of these bolts coming out anyway? Let's see what happens here. Well, it came out. It broke off, but it came out. What do you know? They both came out. Alright, right, while he's doing that, one of the things we also need to do is clean off this axle. So we have a lot of brackets to attach to here, including the truss. So I need to cut off all of the old bracketry, including the leaf spring hardware there and the old shock mounting hardware. It gets really nasty in here, so I'm gonna have to open the door.
Just that door? Or the whole door?
The whole door.
It's cold.
Man, that jacket on. What a beautiful day outside. We should have the door open. Since the rest of the Jeep is so beautiful, I think I'll just leave it beautiful like that instead of taking hours to grind all that off. Sound like a plan? It'll be fine. Alright, frame is prepped. That thing is prepped. What would you call that thing? Cross member of sorts is prepped, and we're gonna put that up there, hold it in place, get it spot on, and then weld it. Is that the plan?
That's the plan. Why do auto tape measures elude me?
I got one in my pocket. Okay, I'm at 14 3/4.
Almost the same thing.
Alright, good enough for government work.
Yeah, we're 16th off.
Looking good. That'll hold. Alright, so this truss is pretty cool. It's got a hole right there for the vent tube. It's got this inner brace here, which I'm going to weld up. But I want to get it in just the right spot. They mentioned this in the directions, but I'm going to have to grind that weld. I want you to weld on the inner part of that truss, but I'm going to have to grind a little bit of that off so that this inner piece will sit all the way up in there. You can see that goes up there in there, and then I'll weld that as well before I put this back on and weld this to the axle. And I took a little bit off here and here as well. And now, fits down in there nice. I'll go put it back on the axle. This hole right here is an alignment hole, and you want to align that with the breather tube. So that's kind of nice to have that. And then we'll center this, and basically all I'm doing here is I'm just going to tack this inner piece to here, then go weld it on the table. I'll pull that off again, go weld it fully, and then we'll bring it back and weld it onto the axle. All right, check that out. That is our truss all welded up, along with the upper control arm mounts welded onto that. Josh is over there working on the other end of this, right?
Yep.
And this is ready to go on. So let's see how it fits. Oh yeah. Don't even have to weld it on there, that just stuck. So what they're saying is that this should be parallel with the diff cover, so that's gonna roll back just a tad, right about there. It's gonna get welded here, here, and here, and all on the other areas, and then we're gonna put the pads for the coil springs. Those are gonna get welded onto the edge of here at a separate different angle, and then we've got the shock mounts as well that go on the backside. This is gonna look like a beefy axle, even though it's just a 8 1/4. Only slightly stronger than a Dana 35. I'll let that cool for a minute. I don't want to warp the axle, so I'm gonna stitch in different places, let it cool, not too much heat. You're getting fancy with this, using the copper spray paint.
This part's still good. Try to keep it that way.
I still haven't figured out what we're gonna do with this. That needs some bracing of some sort.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Now, are these lines where that's supposed to go, or is that 1.5 inch back?
That's 1.5 inch back.
All right, guys, what do you think? Are we gonna be able to get, well, I guess you can't see it, but are we gonna be able to get a transfer case in between there and there?
These lines are gonna have to move.
It'll be fine. All right, guys. Oh, your joint just fell on the ground. We're sitting here making joints. What would you call it? A joint party?
It's a joint party.
So these flex joints from Iron Rock are kind of like a rebuildable Heim, but you've got this inner piece here and you've got these two plastic pieces that go on the outside of that. And then these guys here, these metal pieces, go like so, and then that all gets sandwiched together with these Allen head screws, but you have to build that inside of this guy here, so one side at a time. This guy, and this guy. I forgot pre-grease. I was trying to do it fast for the camera. How many ooga doogas on the torque spec on these?
5 at quarter throttle.
After a few minutes, you end up with something that looks like that. And then you got a grease fitting here. They provide a 90-degree or straight, depending on what you're doing. And then that gets installed right here. All right, joint building party is complete. Check out those flex joints, man. Those are so beautiful. All right, guys, it's yet another day. I thought we were gonna have this thing done 2 days ago. We're still working on it. We've got this cross member ready to be welded in. So we've moved it back 1.5 inches from where it should be. And that's all marked and it's ground and ready to be welded. Then we're gonna figure out where these links go so we can situate the rear axle and get the tabs and brackets welded onto it. That thing is fully welded. What happened? That's like a 1/2 inch short. Alright, so it looks like that got smacked around in shipping. We need to open it up a little bit for it to fit in there. I think you went a little too far. Look who it is, guys. It's the lunch lady.
Hi.
Where's our lunch?
You already ate lunch.
Oh.
You got Mickey D's.
Thanks for lunch.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We need to bring this Jeep down. Will you help us?
Yep.
You're gonna pull on this wrench and hold it,
Okay.
hold it down,
Uh-huh.
and then at the same time you're gonna push this lever.
Push this lever and this down at the same time.
Now you hold that down first.
Okay, like right
You
now?
hold it, pull that down,
Okay.
and then push this lever, and it'll start dropping. If we don't have any limit straps, we could have this much travel on our axle.
Is that good?
Yeah, stuff. Man, look at all that flex. So we've got all 4 links in. It took us a little while. We've got those brackets just tacked for now because we're still waiting on the pads that are going to go above it. So we're not sure if those are going to clearance. We assume everything's in the right place. Let's move it down. We've got the pinion angle what we think it needs to be, and we've got these extended out 2 1/8 inch. They look really long, but they are very long. So what we're trying to do is get this right over the center of the axle at ride height, and at the same time we're doing a little bit of a stretch. So we planned on about a 2-inch stretch when we welded all the brackets together. We put these upper coil buckets 2 inches back from what the directions had said, and that cross member up front as well.
Close.
What are you measuring, the pinion angle?
We're only 2 degrees off, so that's easily within adjustment.
So with the 4-link, you can adjust the pinion angle and the side-to-side movement of the axle with the arms. So there's adjustment on all 4 arms. And we typically use lasers and get too complicated with that stuff, but I told Josh, we're just gonna eyeball it this time. No need for lasers here.
These high clearance are nice.
They are very high clearance. Look, the way that they're bent, the arms are up really high and tucked in, which is nice. It's got more. Oh wow, look at that stuff. It's starting to bend it a little bit. What we can do is just cut the whole Jeep right here, and we'll just move it out and weld it back in right here. What about at ride height? Somewhat ride height. About there. You can definitely tell that we moved it back. I think it's actually too far back though, because if you look at the coil buckets, they're now in front of the axle right here. All right, we're gonna keep playing with this and we'll check back in shortly. I told you guys we were gonna play, and so what we're trying to play with now is how high we can lift this thing and still have everything attached here.
See how much flex we have.
That's a lot of flex right there. And we've got even more. Oh, something's
Yep, we're in.
something's
No
moving.
more than that. In the challenge with no shocks, this is how much flex we have.
That's gonna get a little crazy. You know what these things are good for? That. We're about at ride height. This shock is too short, and this shock is maybe too long. Drop it down and see what happens here. So that's bottomed out for that shock. We still have a lot of up travel room to go. We need to move it forward about 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches to match the buckets. What do you say?
Yep, gotta watch that distribution and whatnot.
Okay. That side gets way more flex with that shock. Your shocks can limit your travel if you don't have the right shock. But if you don't have the right shock on this end, it'll limit your up travel. So what you want is to be right in the middle. So you have the middle amount of down travel and the middle amount of up travel.
I like that as far as the down travel goes, but
I'm sure you do. Josh is playing again. Let's see what happens now. Come on, chair. Hang strong. You got this.
You're weird.
It's gonna be great. You're right, actually. With it drooping, we could cut this all out, but it's gonna start hitting probably before the shock bottoms out. Keep going. Yep, it's hitting the tire, the body is. And the shock still has some way to go, and that's because it's flexed now, and this is outside of the pivot point, whereas before when both of them were coming up, it wasn't pivoting. Well, I think by the time we move this axle forward 1 inch, clearance this with the hammering device, it'll be just fine.
yeah.
An hammering device?
Yeah.
Got all sorts of those.
You got your crescent hammer, your crowbar hammer,
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 air hammer.
I like how the hammer isn't your first hammering device.
Hammer device is whatever nearest to you. Ratchet hammers come in really handy.
Y'all are weird.